Anyway, this is a totally portable system of working. It's something that anybody can grasp. I teach workshops all over the country. At one time, and since I can't see what's on my table on screen, I don't think you can either. If I hold this up, can you see this photograph? Good. Yes. Okay, this is what I looked like back when I was painting in oils. And let me tell you, it takes a lot. If you're on a trip with your family or anybody else, you get all this stuff out, then you paint, then you have to clean it up and then put it away. You'll only use it once on a trip. Everybody gets totally fed up with it. And let me tell you, it takes a lot of time. So I would take all this stuff, all my oils, all my watercolors on a trip, and then just totally tick off my family. And that was the only time I took it out once. That was it. Pocket sketching's a little different. This is me with the total equipment. I don't know if you can still see this. Dale is working with controls. Anyway, this is total equipment. You don't put anything down. Everything goes in a pocket or a purse, or I have a custom fanny pack, which I will show you. I'm not sure you can see it. This is going to be a problem.
Well, Kath, it's not a problem. Just take a picture and hold it up to the camera. Like if you want to show something like that, that works fine. Like those photographs you had, you just hold them up. That way we can see them.
The problem is I want to show you the bag because everything's in it. Can you see the bag now?
Yes.
Okay, if you can see it, that's cool. This is my bag, and in the outside are pens and a credit card, which I use for scraping. It's not a live card. The next little pocket will carry a point and shoot camera or a cell phone. The next pocket carries the paint set, up to 3 pads of paper, and then ancillary stuff like lipstick, lip balm, Altoids in this case, a sock top that works as a blotter. It's fabulous. And in the back pocket, which is very important, carries your money, your passport, your credit cards, your healthcare card, your ICE card. You do not need a purse once you're doing this. And then on the ends are 2 pockets for water.
And Kath, would you please raise the bag up a little bit and just kind of angle it so we can look into it? There you go.
Does that work? Okay. When the flap is down, the water should be clean. If the flap is tucked in, the water's dirty, or I'm using it. There's one on either end. If both flaps are down, then everything's in the bag and I don't have to remember anything except my ID and money, and I'm good to go. And when it is in use, it is extremely easy to use. I'm going to leave myself some water, hand that back to Dale, and I'll show you how it's used, and I think you can see this. First, you have to open the paint set, but the cool thing is, once this paint set is open, and Jack, can you see this?
We can come down.
Raise it up about 3 inches. There you go.
Yeah, I don't, the overhead is just not working.
There you go. Now that's good. That's the overhead.
Okay. Okay. Now that's a sketch. It goes right on the lid. You hold this close to your body and your personal space, and nobody will bother you. Nobody knows whether you're good or bad or indifferent because they won't bother you. You'll see them try to sneak glances, but you absolutely ignore them and they go away. This is really cool because you don't want someone to see when you get a bad one. You do want them to see when you get a good one. So everything is in here. This happens to be a travel brush. This is the brush that comes with the paint set. It's small, but it works. I had one much smaller than this for 3.5 years before I ever discovered there were better, bigger brushes. So everything is right here. Now, when you have the bag, the water's right under it. If you don't have a bag, this Winsor Newton thinks you're going to use this cute little thing, which will not hold enough water to do anything, but it happens to match a 35 millimeter film canister that holds a half a day's worth of water. And it will plug in on either side if you're right or left-handed. So it does have a function. The paint set has a good set of paints. It's easy to use, but the whole thing is based on a water-soluble pen. And for this, Dale, can you possibly come use this camera?
It's on.
It's on now. It's on now.
Okay. Yeah, Dale, can you pan back a little bit? We're awfully close. Just come back just a little bit.
Yeah, we can't
there
see.
You go. There you go. That is great right there.
Yeah. Now, can you see the pad of paper that I have right here, Jack?
Yes.
Good. Okay. And is it big enough or too big or?
No, it's fine. It's good. Yeah.
Okay. This is from the last day of a workshop I just taught in Salt Lake City. And we've just done a Western tour. You guys all travel. We went from here to Carlsbad, California, to Sebastopol, to Cookeville, Washington, to Portland, Oregon for 2 workshops, to Sun Valley, and then Salt Lake City. This is all in one tour. It was 6 weeks with a ton of equipment. So this was on the last day of the workshop in Salt Lake. This was also that day. The wonderful little park. The major park was the Jordan Park, but there is an International Peace Park inside it. This was in the International Peace Park. Just absolutely delightful. So what you look for when you're sketching is what catches your eye. And you have an ability that a photographer doesn't have. You can move things in and out of the picture to where you want them. The camera takes it where it is. But if there's something that really caught your eye, then you want to catch that on your piece of paper and enjoy it. I've got to show you one that I've got up here that's kind of fun in that regard. We were picking cherries in California. This is near Palmdale. And this cherry orchard has you come in and they give you bags. You can't bring your own bag. They give you a bag. You pick cherries. The bag is weighed on the way out. You pay for it. Well, this lady, you have to really look over in this corner. She tried to beat the system. She ate all the cherries she could possibly hold. And when she got to the parking lot, she irked the whole mess up. Now, this is something, and this is something that you can catch when you're sketching, where there were cars in the way if I tried to take a picture of her and she was too far away. I just thought it was hilarious. So you catch what you think you see, and that's completely different from what's really there. Most of us aren't really good with the camera, but when you learn to sketch, not only do you have the fun of the sketches, but you go into a meditative state. You totally immerse yourself where you are. And when you get home, you look at a sketch like this and you remember everything else that was there. I had one person say that she had gone to India, spent a month and a half there, started with the camera, switched to totally sketching because the sketches were more personal. And you can really catch. Now, a good photographer can catch anything, but most of us aren't that good. I mean, we're in the point and shoot range, not in the really get the emotional aspect of something, but each of these gives you a different idea of where you are. And they're a heck of a lot of fun to do. One will be bombastic, the next one will be quiet. Your mood comes through. There's one that's in Texas. That one was up in Washington. They're from all over. This was a swimming pool in California, and it was as much about the people as the umbrellas and the fact that it was hot. You all know what hot is. I just heard that from you. So Jack wanted me to give you a little example of how you do it. Oh, among the things that are fascinating, let me get a brush out. And I'm going to use a large travel brush. This doesn't come with the kit. But it's faster, and I think you can see it better because of its size. The handle goes.
Kath, would you also tell them about the paper? I mean, everything you pull out, if you would, just a real quick on what it is, maybe the size of it and that sort of thing. And
okay.
So people can start to picture themselves doing this.
4 by 6 inch. Well, actually, it's 6.5 inches because Strathmore listens to its artists. It's Strathmore drawing paper. It works better than their watercolor paper with the pen. The reason it's 6.5 inches long is standard inexpensive framing is 4 by 6 inches long. And so people would get the 4 by 6 inch pad and sketch right into the spirals. Well, Strathmore heard about that and made it 6.5 inches. So there's a dead 1/2 inch that you can put anything on. And I usually put a line over here and my start time and stop time, because I'm going to work within 25 minutes or less. So if I were doing it right now, I would be putting in my times. I'm in Tucson, so I'm basically 4:15. And then I write 20 minutes later, that would be 35. When I hit that time, I have 5 minutes to finish. What happens is, if you work within a short time, you will be interested, in fact, excited. Your brush strokes will show it. The energy will come through to the paper. You give yourself 2 hours to work, you're going to pick at it, you're going to hate it, and everybody else is going to hate you for taking so long. So you learn to go really, really, really fast. And all of my sketches are done within 25 minutes, except architecture. Architecture, give yourself an extra 5 minutes to catch a detail of whatever it is. Otherwise, you don't need that extra 5 minutes. So first, let me show you a little bit about what the pen itself will do. This is the Pilot Razor Point. It's an old pen from the 1980s. And I actually do this with classes. This is actually their first exercise, but it's all about the pen. These are old mountains. I put that on the wrong side. Yeah, you did. What happens? These are shadows. Then I like to say the sun's coming from here. Well, that would be a brightly lighted side, not a shadowed side. So what do I do with that? Why not hide it? Very versatile. There's another mountain. Just got rid of that. And foothills. And then these, believe it or not, are trees. I don't care how you put this up here. There's more ink per running inch than there is back there, because the farther away you look, the less contrast there is between light and dark. Now it looks totally crummy, doesn't it? Put the lid on the pen because it can dry out. In my case, I open the water with my teeth because I get a kick out of it. It's very easy to open. And now I'm wetting a brush. And now comes the magic. And I have to remember that I added a little extra magic here. So I'm going to hit this one first so that I get it out of the way, because I don't usually have that. Now, the magic. If you run over this again and again and again and stay in the lines like you would as a kid, it's boring. Instead, you get ink in the tip of the brush, water in the heel. The heel's right in front of the silver ferrule. Now tickle it. What can you get out of it? What happens if you go out of the lines? What happens if the more you play around, the more fun you're going to have? And normally, after this, I want to get a sky behind it. This would be awkward. Don't do things that are awkward. Turn the paper. This is not awkward. Point of the brush and heel of the brush are both on the paper. The ink will run any place where there is water. This is actually based on Asian brush painting. There's now ink in the brush. Here come clouds. A little bit, not much. And normally I do this with the smaller brush. It's interesting doing it with the larger one. Now to get these, they don't look like trees, do they? They look like really dreadful scribbles. Dreadful scribbles. There come trees. And because it gets boring, a brush stroke across, which becomes earth, dirt. And then I wet the brush again. Do it again. And it's extremely fast. You can see it's fast. It's extremely facile. Then somebody will ask me, what happens if you use color? So I'm going to use color on this next little batch of lines. You do it at the same time you wet the lines. I'm going to tip off some of that water. So, the paint set.
I don't know what they can see.
Can you see it, Jack?
Yes.
Good. So I'm going to pick up a little sap green. It's a very universal green, and add it to these lines at the same time that I wet them. And the viewer's going to think it's green. It's still heavily black, but they'll think it's green. Now you see things that are happening. These are pure watercolor things. That is called bloom. And it happens when you put water next to color. It can be ink, it could be watercolor. As the water spreads, it carries the color out. Then as it dries and pulls back in, it leaves this very telltale little ring. Purists in watercolor will tell you, you got to start over. That's a mistake. I say, no, that's watercolor. It is fabulous to have. And don't start over. You're going to distract from it if you want to, or hide it if you want to, or live with it if you want to. In this case, it looks like a forest fire. So learn to use these accidental things that watercolor does and cherish them for what they are, because they're the wonderful part of watercolor. Incidentally, I didn't tell you when I started, this was cleanup. That's all there is. You don't clean the paint set till it gets really, really, really dirty. If you notice on my paint set, the far side of colors are dirty. The near side is clean. And once in a while, like this lemon yellow, because it's getting well worn and it's got a big cave in the middle of it, some of the grunge gets down in there. How do you clean that up? Oh, it's a snap. Take the brush and clean it. Rinse the brush out on the water. There you go. That is not dirty water. The water's not dirty until it will color the paper all by itself. Other ones that might be dirty, that's clean on my side, dirty on the other side, so I don't care. This is burnt sienna, that's clean on my side, dirty on the other side, I don't care. I can get clean cerulean blue here, and I can get clean ultramarine blue. So it's okay if the other side is dirty. Obviously, I mix on the lid. Now you might say that's a cruddy lid. Oh no, that is color that is dilute with which you can do amazing things. Let's just pick that up and play with it. Got a bit of a sunset in there. Is there, what else can I do with that? I'd like a little yellow, and I bet there is still some here. Yep, there is. So at the bottom, it might be a little yellow. Then it would go up into a pink. I want to really actually pick up a little pink. But this stuff in the lid changes colors slightly. Instead of getting a, oh, I'll pick up that was probably a alizarin crimson. I'll pick up some straight alizarin crimson. Overpowering. Once you've transferred it up here and it's dilute, you can use it as a dilute color. There is so much flexibility. People will tell you make a mistake in watercolor, you got to start over and it's ruined. Oh no. No, you're just started, that's all. You need to just keep playing. To get rid of this would be difficult to get rid of. That's too intense. Maybe, but why bother? This was only a little example. It's fun. So what I like to teach people is to literally have fun, not have something to put on the living room wall, but to have a book of memories, a book of travel, and enjoy it. You know, it's very easy to work with this, and it's amazing what you can do with it. That was only a few minutes. And
this is really great. I mean, seeing a real time painting occurring. I mean, we do a lot of shows that are PowerPoints, you know, where we're showing photographs and all. And this is so fun to see it coming together right here in front of us.
It would come together right in front of you. Now, normally I tell everybody to keep the sketches in the book so you can see your progress. Because most of us, as we get better, raise the bar. And then we're really dissatisfied because we don't think we've ever got better. Well, if you keep them in the book, then you can see that you've become better. But I'm actually going to tear this out. Jack, you asked me if I could do water. And for the fun of it, I got to watch my time because there's only so much time. But a waterfall, and it's when you're sketching it or painting it, it's not exactly what you think it is when you think of sketching it and painting it. The hardscape is really important. And you can do it with fairly heavy lines. Let's say, there you go. That one was lighter and it was on purpose. And then the top of the water. And there's going to be something on the other side, undoubtedly. Where's the water going? Now, I don't have any water in front of me, so I'm going to have to kind of eyeball this baby and make it work. but I bet it will. Incidentally, you're welcome to go to the website. It's pocketsketching.com. We'll be teaching I expect the last road trips for teaching, because I've been doing this for 13 years and we're both getting kind of over it. We're going to be in, what's first? Lowell, the Life Process Center, Lowell, Michigan. Then Dillman's in Upper Wisconsin. It is definitely a workshop venue. Then after that, Ann Arbor.
And the East Coast.
Then the East Coast, Provincetown, Massachusetts, which is going to be fun. Okay, now to make this work, I need a little more ink here, because these guys have got to appear heavy and powerful. Don't know about the bottom. I haven't figured that one out yet. And then there might be, let's say you've got a tree up in here, and I'm just making this up as I go along, and one in there, some brush, another tree. Well, it could be straighter, for goodness sake. It could, doesn't have to be. And a little guy. It's a little tree, but it's parallel. That's okay. There's their land. Okay, now figure out how this is going to work. To start with, by the way, if you don't put the lid on the pen, it dries out. I used to call that pilot error. It's a pilot pen. And then somebody laughed one day and I hadn't realized it was a pilot error. And, because yeah, Dale was a fighter pilot for 23 years. So as he said, he never made it.
I
never made an error.
No.
Never. He lived. What was it you said about if you come back alive, it's a successful flight?
You can walk away from an airplane. It was a good landing. If they can use the airplane the next day, it's even better.
My son's also Air Force, and their humor's a little bit on the dry side, if at all. Now I mentioned, can you hand me the credit card that's in my bag? Because I mentioned it, and I'll show you what it does. It's on the outside with the pens.
Oh, okay.
That helps.
No, it's not.
It's not his bag.
It's
my bag.
Here it is. Here's one.
Thank you. Might be a little late to get away with this, but let's see. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
Wow, sort of squeegee the.
You squeegee it. Yep.
Yeah.
And this is always in my bag, so I can use it whenever I want to use it. Now I'm going to have to sneak up on the water. So what I want is really dilute colors, dilute and somewhat neutral. And figure it out sort of as I go. There'd be some down in here. I want it to be a little bit greener. What have I got in junk in the lid? I'm going after the junk in the lid because that's where all of this really is. And then some of it would be down in here. And then I've got another dark rock over there. So already got a little bit of black. I'm going to go for a color that always succeeds at making a dark gray. Ultramarine blue, burnt sienna. And I want a little bit more blue in there. Come in and get this rock. Bring it down right around the water. And there's the water. The water is what you leave. And remember, I'm still sneaking up on it. I've got to get rid of this line because it's not going to have a hard line. And then I want it a little darker at the base. That's kind of interesting. Didn't mean to have it come out that way, but I like it. You got to look and see whether you like something, because if you like it, you may want to live with it. And if you don't like it, that's another story. What would happen if this rock is lighter and let's say a tad redder? Just a tad. That's a lot. Well, change it. And I'm going for dilute colors because I'm not sure of what I'm doing. And so I want to be sure that I get away with it.
Kath, the color in the lid, is that just from your mixing, or is that like leftover paint from the brush you're putting up on the lid?
Well, it's both.
Oh, yeah,
It's from when I want to dilute color, I look in the lid to see if I've got it. Do I have the color I'm looking for? And if I do, then I'm going to pull it out of the lid. That's so artificial looking. Oops. Yeah, I'm taking some color, straight color right now, because this is a demo and demos don't always work, and I want it to work. I have seen a pro do a really bad demo, and it was, to me, it was fascinating. He did a terribly poor demo, and then finished early. It was for a very big group. He finished early, and then did, I would call it as a canned demo, something he had done a lot, but he was good at it. And the canned demo was dynamite. It was worth seeing. And he was in front of a crowd of about 250 people. So he was going to be teaching a workshop the next day. He needed to have it work. A little line in here, get a little more detail there. I like that. Okay, now come back to the water. What's in the brush now? A light gray. Bring some of the water up. Get up here. Might be a different color up there. Okay, I've done enough there. There'd be a splash maybe in here. Some really real water in here. You see it shaping up. Meanwhile, I got to watch my time, which is always interesting.
You don't have to watch your time that carefully. We're flexible. If we're having a good time, people hang around.
If you're having a good time, anything goes. This is a color that shows up in water, and I love using it. It's sap green mixed with burnt sienna, because you get to see a little bit of what's under the water in it. Lots of splashes in here, and there may be some splashes in here too. Hadn't thought of that, but I am now. And what about down in there? Oh, this is something I didn't do before. That's a wet field. Watch what happens. It'll run a bit. And many of you like the effect of a very wet watercolor. I'll get a bit more of that in here. And then it could be up in here. And I haven't touched the background. So some of that same color, only this time, blew it a tad. Because as you go farther away, colors blue. There's the dirt on the green stuff, plants. And then I've got a rock. So come back and get a rock. All this stuff that I transfer to the lid, I'm checking colors, but then I pick it up later as a wonderful, already finished color. That's better than it was. And then another one up here, but why wouldn't it continue to carry that same kind of color? So add a bit of it. Don't be afraid of it, stick it in. Don't like it, manipulate it. Always fun to be able to do this. Too much. But maybe the bottom will make it up for it. Now I gotta be real careful coming down next to that water. I don't wanna hit it hard because the water should still look like water. And then I've got trees up there and they're darker. I want it darker than that, for goodness sake. And another one up in here. And then would it be lighter in the background? It would certainly be quite neutral. And might go to a bit of sky. Might. There's a bit. There's a bit. There's a bit. But there'd also be some green stuff coming right up in there. Now it does look a lot like water. This is kind of a neat brush stroke, which I do hope works. You never know. But the fun thing is the doing. It's not the getting to something that's gorgeous. It's the doing. It's being able to say, yeah, that was fun. Would that come up in here? Probably. might be in part of this. And would that go darker now? You notice that it looks like a waterfall and it didn't at the beginning? Now, I have to say, I've done this. I've been using this technique since discovering it by accident in 1986. I had no intention of ever teaching. In fact, I intended to never teach. Strongly, very strongly. And then this happened on a trip where I was painting in oil paint. And I looked at that and said, someday I'm going to have to bring this out and teach it, because this is the easiest introduction to watercolor anybody's ever seen, and it works, and it's fun. So basically, I think I could pretty well live with this just the way it is right now, maybe a bit more dirt color back up in there so that it looks like it's dirt. And I'm just making some tiny little changes, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that was, I covered up my time. I think it was going to be, it's not 25 minutes. I think it's about 20, it's close to 20 on. So it's not bad at all, time-wise. And notice how this heavy, dark edge sets off the water. The hardscape has to be there for you to see the water. The water basically is invisible unless it's got a lot of algae in it. So it's the heavy stuff that makes it work. So, and this again, hey, that's cleanup. That's all there is. And you put the brush away wet. It's got a dry out hole in the back end. And you put it away and you walk on. That's it. Stick it away.
That's great.
Yeah, you don't clean. If this is wet and you're walking, you first, you've got to hold it. If you're standing, very first thing, if you're standing, first thing out of the way is to get the water out of the way. So, and get a lid on it. And then that would go back in whatever you're carrying. Then the paint set, meanwhile, you don't want to put this down because you might forget it. You bring the lid down to the paint set. Now that's ready to put away. And now you can walk off until this is dry. You have to hold it. But when it's dry, then you just simply put the lid back down. It's dry. Well, that spot up there isn't. But then you just put the lid down on it and you shove it back in the bag and you keep going. Then you take it out when you want to. I used to run with this. My business card, I was running with two of my dogs and I ran with the fanny pack on. It was in the front. And you guys who travel, in the back, I had a bigger fanny pack that had two large water bottles, one for me and one for the dogs. My purse, which I carried then, because I hadn't invented the whole fanny pack yet. And if necessary, depending on where I was, a 38, which I carried when I was in strange places. Little note, I've been hunted once and shot at twice. So when I'm in strange places, I often carry. You wouldn't notice it, but I do. Because I'm not going to be a victim. I'm a Boy Scout by temperament. Be prepared. But anyway, this is very near where we live. It's not all cactus here. There are some beautiful places that are not cactus. Those are eucalyptus trees. And so I just stopped, and the dogs were trained to stop when I did, and wait until I put the paint back in. As soon as I put the paint box in, they were good to go, but they had to wait. So this was done while I was running, stop, do the sketch, tuck it away, and take off again. You can do this with a bicycle, downhill skis, walking, running, sauntering. I might have put in a couple I did. We went to Europe, my first trip to Europe a couple summers ago. And so these were just a couple of scenes. And I often write things like recipes. This is coffee granita with ice cream and roasted hazelnuts. The ice cream was walnut. That's likely to show up on something because I like to cook. But these were all along the Danube. And they're just little sketches, but they remind you of where you were. They're done very fast and they're fun. And there may be things on the back. They may be good, they may be bad. It doesn't matter. It's fun. And you get good ones and you get bad ones. scrape, water, Viking. That was a Viking river trip. And it was hard to do this as you're moving. Groups of red-roofed houses, which was on one of them. So, anything can show up in the back. You can use both sides. The pad is 24 pages. That's 48 sides. Incidentally, starter pack of all the equipment is $45 plus shipping. Compare that to getting a bunch of oil paints and all the brushes, or regular watercolor with great big paper that gets in the way, and all of the brushes and the paint. In one tube of Holbein paint, which is about the size of my thumb, runs about $50. That's a tube, one color. So you got, yellow, red, or blue, you get one. And brushes can be very expensive. This is inexpensive. What you run out of is the pen and the pad of paper. And that combination that's $550, isn't it? $525. Okay. You can do that over and over and over on a budget and never notice. And the paint set, if you're using it all the time, will probably last you a year before you have to replace the paint. This is inexpensive. It's inexpensive. It travels. It's fun. It gives you memories. And the trip is different because it's very immersive. You don't have to go very far. There's stuff around the corner everywhere. So basically that's sort of an overview. And then we get to do this recipe, because I think I'm almost to the recipe, aren't I?
Well, before you do, let me just go. We've had questions about where can you get this, and it's
pocketsketching.com. It's my website. It's where you get the whole package. And just look at the website.
It's under the store.
It's under store, Dale says. And the basic kit is what's going to give you the ability to do a whole lot. It comes with this manual that explains the pen. And this sketch of my old dog, I did in 25 minutes while a class was sketching me and the dog was lying next to me. So I sketched her. And that was the best sketch I ever got of her. And she was very elderly at the time. So I was really happy to get it. But this comes with the basic kit, and it has all about the pen and its ins and outs, which you need to know because this is no ballpoint. It's the exact opposite. It's an amazing pen. If it hadn't been for the pen, I never would have discovered this. And that was an accident. But anyway, that's where you get the supplies. It's hard to find the pen. It's hard to find the pad in 4x6 inches and not bigger. Strathmore makes this huge different number of sizes. The paint set's easy. It's a Winsor Newton paint set. And a lot of big houses carry it. But the combination is what you want. And that's, $45 is not a big deal. I took a workshop from Tom Lynch, and I'm doing the taxes right now. I spent $315 on supplies, and I already was well supplied. Yeah?
Where's the ice cream?
In the refrigerator, not the freezer. I told you, I put it there so it gets soft.
Before getting to the ice cream, and I really love ice cream, so this is important though, as a gift for like family members, have you ever done anything like you're going to get something that multiple family members could each have, and this sounds affordable, but then they all get together and paint together?
I have a family that does that. The first three were Marla and her two high school daughters in Idaho Falls. The next member of the family was Marla's sister in Seattle. The third group was another sister with her two college daughters in San Diego. The last one was grandma in Sun Valley. These were each in different workshops. The men in that family go hunting and fishing together. They rent a cabin and go fishing or hunting for a week, and they spend a lot of money. Now the women rent a cabin at the same time and go sketching, gossiping, and having fun as a group. And all of them are sketching, including grandma. I mean, what fun. And this is something that you can do with your kids or your friends. And it's really fun to do it with friends. You just go somewhere and sketch and compare your sketches, and it becomes an activity that you can do, not make a mess, have a good time, and then compare them and enjoy. Anything
sounds
else?
like something, yeah, that you could get. I mean, even the combination, if you had somebody hunting and the other person sitting in the blind with them sketching, you know.
Oh, fishing.
A pretty good combination. So
fishing people go beautiful places. What a wonderful thing to do with the fishermen.